Welcome to Beauty and the Brain with your hosts, Dr. Chris Croley and nurse practitioner Jerry Drinkard. Get ready to dive into the latest in revolutionary treatments, cutting-edge devices, and wellness secrets. Whether you're a consumer or provider, we're here to empower you at the forefront of beauty and aesthetics.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Beauty and the Brain, the podcast where we discuss all things aesthetic. I'm your co-host, Dr. Chris Croley.
And I'm Jerry Drinkard, family nurse practitioner. Together, Chris and I own Skin Tonic MedSpa that's located in Pace, Florida. And today we're super excited about our guest. And Chris and I just met someone that I feel will be a long-term friend a few weeks ago when we were filming a reality show, The Blocks. So we're happy to have Miss Suzette Smith with us today.
Hi, Suzette. Welcome.
Hi, everybody.
Jerry has heard me talk about gut health and probiotics and prebiotics for years. Like, he's sick of hearing me talk about it, probably. I've tried everything you can imagine under the sun. So it's something that I don't know nearly as much as you know about it, but I've been fascinated about for years. So when we met you on the blocks and I heard about your product, Beet Kvass. So Beet Kvass was something I've never heard about before. And there's the product, and I can't wait to try it. We actually got our products from you just yesterday and didn't realize. So I haven't had a chance to try it yet, but I cannot wait to try it. You've been doing this for a little while, been interested since a child in it, and started your business in food manufacturing back in 2015. So tell us a little bit about how you got interested in Beet Kvass. How did you even know about Beet Kvass?
Well, it was all by happenstance, really. This all just rolled out in a beautiful storm almost 10 years ago. I'd been in the nutraceutical industry and was teaching people about detoxing and gut health. And I used to say, you can't get all of your nutrients out of your diet. You must supplement. And in the process of all of this, now I say you can't supplement your way out of a bad diet. And we've really, over the last 10 years, have really learned a lot about fermented foods and how beneficial it is for the microbiome. So how I got started was I needed a job. I needed something, that was my own. And I really enjoyed helping people get healthy. And I just feel so blessed to have had this opportunity and been gifted this. When I first made sauerkraut, I had no idea that I was making sauerkraut. I had run across this article about fermented foods and how beneficial it was for the gut. And I thought, well, this is interesting. And it had a recipe, and it was just some cabbage and some salt. And I was like, I think I'm making sauerkraut, but I'm not really sure. And so I went through with the recipe, and it was sauerkraut, and it just fascinated me. And by the boom, by the bing, I ran into a gal that was interested in starting a business, and she had the money and I had the time. So I started hustling in and with sauerkraut, and then would seek out all the information I could find. And 10 years ago, there wasn't a lot. There was some fermentation festivals popping up around the Southwest, California, went up to Oregon and over to Texas, and just try to consume all the information I could get on fermented foods. And at one of the festivals, I learned about Beet Kvass. So I came home and studied it, found it dated back to the mid-5th century as a health tonic, and just started running with it then. And to this day, I still get calls at least once a month, and people are crying because this product has changed their life. So they start crying, I start crying. We all have a very happy cry at how phenomenal something like an ounce of purple juice can change your life.
Yeah, it's amazing. So I jumped straight to that because it was a new product, and for me, something I wasn't familiar with and I've never heard of. Definitely in, kind of my quest for looking for things that are better for gut health. Obviously, in our industry, in the aesthetic industry, I'm always looking for things that are going to help our skin glow and help us look better and feel better. I knew a lot about sauerkraut and kimchi and some of the, different sorts of kombuchas and fermented water products that you could get, but I'd never heard of the Beet Kvass. So when you said that, it caught my attention because I've never heard of that product. And then we were fortunate enough to be able to talk about it during our filming of the show, The Blocks. And it really, has stimulated my interest more. So as I said, I can't wait to try the product myself and let you know how that goes. Before we kind of get into the more serious parts of it, of what it can do, I want to talk about a few funny things. So have you had any fermenting accidents or along the way? Funny fermenting stories.
I just started adding lactobacillus bacteria. Now, I've done this before. It's through Donna Gates' body ecology website, and she does a starter culture. And starter cultures are not necessarily needed for fermented foods, but to me, I'm a bigger, better, badder person. I want to, go big or go home. So I've used it in the past, and then I've changed up my process a little bit and started adding it back again, and it made it fizzy. And so now I'm getting pictures of people's bottle exploding. With the fermentation creates a little bit of fizz with those bacterias in it. Yeah, I've had stories from everything. People just come up and start telling you about their body systems, their bathroom experiences. And we're just, standing there at the farmer's market table, and there's all these people around talking about poop and how good, people can poop. And so that's when I say a happy gut is a happy butt. Constipation is a huge problem in our community. And just 1 ounce of this really clears that up. So it's kind of funny to have those conversations so freely.
Talking about fermentation, wine is one of my favorite things. And so several years back, talking about fermentation boo-boos, I decided that me and one of my favorite neighbors, we picked, gallon upon gallon of muscadines and made muscadine wine. And I had a label made with Chris and I, with our farm name on it, and I passed it out as gifts. And right around Christmas, maybe a couple of days after Christmas, we started getting calls, and people were calling, and the corks were blowing out of the wine. I hadn't stopped the process. And so I made a mess in a lot of people's homes during my fermentation boo-boo.
Well, those corks on kombuchas, I assume wine too, but they can go through the ceiling.
Yeah, this one, it broke a china cabinet. It did a few things.
But our neighbor actually loved it. Her name was Rose Winchester, and we actually bought the farm from her. So when we were talking with you at the blocks, she passed away last year, and we acquired her farm. And so we still have all the muscadine vine. But he kind of did it as an homage or as a, gift to her. And so he named it after her and her husband, and the road she lived on. It was called Dewy Rose Red. And
I love that.
She was so thrilled that he had taken
I know muscadines very well growing up in the South. So absolutely. I bet it's a delicious wine.
Well, it was delicious, but she got the biggest kick out of it because she was a spicy redhead herself. And I mean, she really loved like pranks and like pulling one over on people. So while some of his sister was like, "Are you trying to kill us?" It knocked a frame off the wall. It went flying across the house. She thought it was absolutely hilarious that all these people had wine exploding everywhere that had her on a Dewy Rose Red.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes my sauerkrauts kind of, when you open it, they just kind of grow out of the jar. People are like, "What is going on?" And that is the evidence of a live food. Be happy that's happening. Just stuff her back down in the jar and put it in the refrigerator, and they'll be fine.
Well, again, it's interesting the process to go through. So clearly, like you said, it's showing that there are live things going on in there. And that's what we're trying to get from anything we ferment, really.
We're more bacteria than we are human. And when I do classes about gut health, I tell people you're a butt before you're a brain. And your digestive tract is formed in utero before your brain is. So when you talk about your gut as your second brain, I would like to offer that it might be your first.
Well, there's so much stuff, and I don't know how much you get into this with your classes. I mean, I've looked over a lot of your stuff, and you've certainly been in this field for a long time. But one of the things that's really fascinating to me is the gut-brain axis or the gut-brain connection. And the things that we deal with as a society now, we know there's way higher rates of anxiety, depression, and a lot of these neurotransmitters that really contribute to that are formed in our gut. So our serotonin and some of these things are directly related to our gut health. And so, especially in the U.S., when we look at these rates of depression and anxiety and all the, chronic mental health conditions that we deal with, I wonder how much of that is directly tied to this diet that we have of highly processed food.
Oh, 100%. We're in our third generation now of processed food. So if you go back 100 years, we didn't have a lot of these issues that we're having. Nobody was gluten intolerant 100 years ago. If I go a day without hearing the word I've got IBS, it's just not a day in the life. The vaccines, the processed food, the sugar, all of those deplete the bacteria in our gut. You're carrying around 3 pounds of a city center, I call it Grand Central Station, in your gut. And that really, like you said, it drives our serotonin, it drives our immunity, it drives our nervous system. And if we don't give it good bacteria to thrive on, then it's just going to keep going down and going down. And that's where you start getting these issues with IBS, being sick. I had a gal, the goat lady. When you work in a farmer's market, everybody's known by what they do. So I'm the beet lady, and the goat lady, she made goat soap and provided goat milk and wool and all that stuff. So anyway, she came up to me one day and she goes, I just want you to know that your sauerkraut has saved my life. She goes, I've had C. diff. I've been fighting it. I've been in the hospital a couple of times. I've been on 3 rounds of antibiotics, and they keep getting stronger and stronger. And none of that would kill the C. diff. Your sauerkraut has done that for me. And of course, she started crying and I started crying. But when we take all of these drugs, when my oldest son was young and he had chronic ear infections. And so we were constantly on rounds and rounds of antibiotics. And now they're saying it could take 2 to 3 years for you to repopulate your gut after just one round of biotics. And when you're on round after round after round, then you really put yourself at a disadvantage for your gut health. So then it becomes a priority to eat a variety of fermented foods, not just a Beet Kvass, not just one thing, but a variety to try to get that population back up. Like I said earlier, you're more bacteria than you are human. So they're saying that our bacteria, just skin, hair, nails, gut, blood, all of this stuff is outnumbers your human cells 10 to 1. When we say you are what you eat, we really are what you eat. And then you go into our grocery stores and it just infuriates me to walk down the aisles and see all these packages that are healthy. And we used to do pantry audits, and because people would say, I eat healthy. I mean, look at all this package, look at all these things I've had in my pantry that say that they're healthy and they've got vitamins and they got minerals. But when you flip it over and look at the ingredients, all of those things destroy anything healthy. Canola oil is horrible. Sugar is horrible. Enriched wheat is horrible. So, and those are oftentimes the first 3 ingredients. So that's what you're getting the most of. And it's destroying us, our guts. And we're now having, our children cannot have children. There's a challenge with that just because our bodies are so out of whack.
The fermentation process, I think it didn't start as a health move. It actually started as a preservation for food. And a lot of the things that you're talking about now, for the processed food is also for preservation, but it changes the nutritional value of the food. So does the fermentation process, I know it adds the component of the bacteria that's so good for our gut, but does it change the nutritional value of whatever we're processing? Because fermentation can also be done with dairy. It's not only, we have cheeses, so that's a fermentation process.
Yogurt and kefir. If you're going to eat a yogurt, I would say switch over to the kefir, and even the store-bought kefir you can flip over and look at the strains of bacteria in kefir as opposed to yogurt. Yogurt is mostly sugar. It doesn't survive the stomach acids, where kefir can survive through the whole digestive tract. But to your question, yes, when you ferment vegetables, it changes everything. For instance, with beets, it breaks it down. Beets are loaded with sugar. All your root vegetables are. Beets, carrots, turnips, all of those root vegetables have a lot of sugar in them. So that feeds the bacteria that once you start that fermentation process. And the only thing you need to do that is add some salt and cut off the air. that will start the fermentation process. So the vegetable starts going into its own little system of protecting or preserving itself, and it does that by consuming the sugar. And with the beets, it strengthens the nitric oxide. So you know how beets are loaded with nitric oxide. Now that's a big buzzword. Well, the fermented beets has even higher forms of bioavailable nitric oxide. And then it also adds probiotics. When I first started, I had a doctor that I was working with, and they would do stool samples to see what type of bacteria you had in your gut, what you needed, and where to get it. And it would name off all these different types of probiotics. And there's some strains of bacteria, probiotic bacteria, that you can only get in fermented foods. And that's why it's important to eat a variety, like you said earlier, just not just sauerkraut. Cheese is fermented. Raw dairy cheese it's one of my favorites. Kefir is a great yogurt replacement. Kombucha is a fermented tea, which is a great soda replacement. And then sauerkraut, you've got all the different flavors. And the challenge now is that to get mass-produced sauerkrauts on the shelf and nice and pretty, they have to lightly pasteurize them. And I promote that goes against what we're trying to accomplish by it killing the bacteria. Vinegar-based sauerkrauts are not the same as regular fermented sauerkrauts. So you really have to do your due diligence when you're trying to seek these different foods to nourish your body and make sure you got what you're looking for.
Well, one of the things that I saw in one of your videos I was watching last night, and we're going to put links to your site so anybody listening can go out there and check this out themselves.
Thank you. I have a coupon code for y'all too.
Oh, good. Yeah, we'll post that. We'll put that on at the end for anybody that wants to try these products. Like I said, I can't wait. But one of the things, that I noticed in one of your videos was talking about, the start of your day and how when you start out your morning, and we eat a lot of processed or sugary foods, and how you crave that throughout the rest of the day. You kind of start this process and it's not just what you eat at that moment, but then what you crave throughout the whole rest of the day. So what do you recommend? How's a good start for somebody to incorporate some fermented foods or some of your products into their morning? And does incorporating that into your morning routine then change your cravings the rest of the day?
Absolutely, it does. So 1 ounce of bee juice, I like to get started with in the day. It sets my intention for the day. And those cravings are really the bacteria in your gut going, feed me more, feed me more. So, have you ever started your day with something sweet, and then the whole day you're just looking for more sweet, and that's the bacteria in your gut. So if you start with a fermented, and it could be a bite of sauerkraut, it could be a shot of kvass, something that does not have sugar in it, not yogurt, like a shot of kefir, that really sets your intention for the day. Our kitchen is on a city block, and we're in the middle. And there's the donut store on the end. And I love donuts. I'm a cookie monster. But we never go. I go to that store. I probably went about a year ago, and I got a donut because I thought that's what I wanted. And as soon as I took a bite into it, it was just like, this is gross, So you really can turn your gut around, your eating habits around with a little bit of intention and then the right bacteria, because that's what's driving you, your Grand Central Station. So it's those little guys down there are going, give me more sugar, give me more sugar. I mean, we're the largest consumers of sugar in the history of mankind now. And it's in everything. You can't get away from sugar. So that's the biggest challenge to get away from, I think, it's sugar.
Now, I know you're much more focused on well-being, immunity, overall health, but a lot of our listeners, not that they don't love that, but they're a little more superficial. They're worried about the way they look and how their skin looks. And you look absolutely amazing. I told you before we jumped on this call, your skin is glowing. You look radiant. You look amazing. So just from yourself and from your users who are on your products, have you heard them notice any improvements or changes in their skin quality?
Oh, absolutely. Cystic acne. I had a girl that was working for me at the farmer's market a couple of years ago, and she said, I feel like this Beet Kvass has gotten rid of my acne. And if you think about it, it makes sense. You are what you eat. So and you got to go from the inside out. So if you feed your gut good for you bacteria, then it's going to show on the outside in not only your skin and your hair, but also in your energy.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And I think we go over that a lot. It makes sense to me that it will be reflected in the way that you look, not just the way that you feel. But we deal with people who are having, thinning hair, brittle hair, dry, dull skin. And, I kind of go back to everything that we absorb. We can't absorb our vitamins and nutrients appropriately, even if you're, trying to eat healthy, if you don't have the right gut flora to absorb those nutrients.
That's right.
We've seen that over and over. We can prove it with lab testing. We can look at people who, come in and want to do IV nutritional therapies. And yes, we can replace it in the IV, and that'll temporarily help. And we can give them that boost or that glow. But really what we would like for them is to get on something at home that they can do every day to maintain that. So they're not having to come in and get these boosts or take all of these different supplements just to achieve something that they could achieve by incorporating small changes into their daily habits.
Right. The whole food diet was pretty popular a couple of years ago, and I don't have a television in my home, so I'm behind the times about a year and a half, probably. Okay. But this whole food diet was out, and I'm like, well, what is that? Well, it's where you eat, whole foods for 30 days. And I'm like, well, what else do you eat the other time? So I'm not a big grocery store shopper. I do all of my food shopping at the farmer's market when I can. So if you stick to that whole food thought mindset, and then really be intentional with what you're putting in and making sure that you get fermented foods. I mean, that's very important. Bone broth, is very good for you. And it can help heal the gut lining. But it's all about what you put in your mouth and on your skin. I mean, your skin is your largest organ. And the supplements and the IVs, those are great complements. But like I used to tell my classes, you can't supplement your way out of a bad diet. It's got to be intentional.
Well, I find it absolutely fascinating that you have no TV in your house, and we met you by filming a reality TV show.
I know, when they were talking about Wes is on this and this, I'm like, I didn't even know that show existed, So I'm always a little bit.
I have to be honest, I did not know Wes before the blocks either, and I've never seen any of those shows. And we do have a TV. It's not that I'm totally against it, but I did not know that either. Jerry, did you know?
No, I knew what Road Rules was, but I don't know that I ever watched it. Probably I just heard of it because MTV was so popular, As far as being aware of him or the blocks or anything else, I really didn't.
Yeah, I kind of drug Jerry along. He didn't know halfway through the application process that I had even applied for us to be on the show.
He does that to me.
Well, it was great. I had so much fun and such great memories already from that show. And I actually left the show, came home for a day, and then drove up to Salt Lake City to help with some sales for accounts up there, and was able to meet with a gal that I met on the blocks and get some product into her spot too. So it was a life changer for me.
We learned so much about our business, and we learned so much about what we don't know. But I think when we left from there, just learning that if something's a passion of yours, that you truly can, take it and make it something positive for a lot of other people, not just yourself.
I just love hearing about, like you say, the passion in everybody's business and the ideas. I mean, you get great ideas. And I tell my kids, everyone comes up with $1 million idea at least once a month. And it's a matter if you act on it. And, I'll call them and say, hey, I got $1 million idea. What do you think? And they just usually roll their eyes. But yeah, that was a great experience. And it gave me an opportunity to meet you guys. And I had a great time.
Before we close out, we try to keep this, around half an hour so people can listen to it driving. So any final thoughts you want to share before we close this out? Any words of wisdom?
Be intentional with your food, eat fresh whole foods and look at your ingredients. If the ingredients start out with enriched, canola oil is just bad. Stay away from that. And sugar, Just get out of box foods altogether and start incorporating ferments at every meal. You can start with a shot of, Beet Kvass in the morning, have a little bit of sauerkraut with your meal. And people are like, how do you eat this? And I have a sign that I used to hang at my farmers markets that says, just eat it. It's like you put a pickle on your plate, put some sauerkraut on your plate, because that's really what it is. And remember, all fermented foods are pickled, but not all pickled foods are fermented. So if it's got vinegar in the ingredients list, that's not a fermented food, and you're not going to get that variety of probiotics. And know that variety really is the spice of life.
I love that. I did not know that. Actually, I learned something new. Even all the things I looked at leading up to this, I did not know that. I love vinegar. And so a lot of things that I eat that I think are healthy are probably not as healthy as I think because they are vinegar based.
Yeah, the vinegar makes the vegetables shelf stable by killing the bacteria. And so I'd say I'm a bacteria producer. I make bacteria. And that's why I was adding those starter cultures, and it's only a small little packet in a 500-liter tank. But I would add it and it'd start bubbling right away. So I knew that's a great environment for that to flourish.
So with that is, what are the shelf life of some of your products? So people are looking at, because what we talked, they last quite a while. They're not like short.
Yeah, so they're naturally preserved. So we do not ship them refrigerated. It would just make it unfeasible for a lot of people with the expense of trying to ship cold product. So it's temperature tolerant for a while. And I say a while, meaning a couple of months. You could leave it on the front porch in Florida for a month and say, oh my gosh, I forgot that was there. And I would say, put it in the refrigerator and it'll be fine. And that is true for most fermented foods. They are temperature tolerant, but when you put them in cold storage, that slows the fermentation process down. It kind of puts the bacteria to sleep a little bit, so it lasts longer, and you've got a more viable product for a longer period of time. So we put on our kvass and our sauerkraut about 7 months out to encourage people to go ahead and use it up. But
I just, for anybody listening, I don't want them to think that because we talk about this not having preservatives, they're going to use it in like 2 weeks. It's not, it's months.
Right. It's months. This is a 32-ounce bottle, and it'll last you a month if you drink it every day. But it's also can sit in your refrigerator for a few months. And sometimes it grows something if it sits still for too long, but that takes months too. And each batch is wild. So I don't boil anything. We don't cook anything. We just take the vegetable in and let it do what it wants to do with the salt and the water. They can taste different. It can look different from batch to batch, but it's that's good because it gives us a variety. We're getting bacteria from the soil, from the air, from many different components of it through the process. And so not everything is the same.
Jerry, anything final questions that you have?
I don't think I have any questions, but I love hearing someone that's so passionate about something as you are this, and something that, like, I suffer from psoriatic arthritis. Chris has been trying to get me to do something about my gut for years. And so, and I love the taste of fermented foods. I have kimchi in my fridge as we speak, and now I have your products. I can't wait to open the box, and we'll get started with today.
Yeah, well, you'll smell it before you see it. That's for sure.
That's perfect for me.
The coupon code for all your listeners is Beauty Brain, all one word, Beauty Brain, in honor of your show. Thank you. You can go on my website and get a discount.
We're going to put all that in the link so when people are listening, but it's gardengoddessferments.com. So this is Suzette Smith that's been on with us today, and we met her recently, but really think we're going to be friends for a very long time. So thank you, Suzette, for agreeing to come on.
Thank you.
We'll put links for all of you that want to try out some Beet Kvass, which I can't wait. We're actually going to go ahead and try it and put it on our Instagram today. So you'll see kind of we'll do a live thing today where we'll see that. So we don't right now, we just got it, but Jerry and I will do it. You'll see us trying it live on Instagram. We'll post that. And we'll also put a link to it there. So gardengoddessferments.com. This is Suzette Smith, and we'll give you a coupon code BEAUTYBRAIN. So thanks, Suzette, for being with us, and I can't wait to talk to you and stay connected for the future.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much. Y'all have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Thank you too. Thanks everyone for tuning in to another episode of Beauty in the Brain. We look forward to seeing you next week.
See you soon.